the silent architect Valerie. Bennett's fingers flew across her keyboard, the blue light of her monitor illuminating her face in the pre-dawn darkness. At 36, she still coded with the same enthusiasm she had in college, though these stolen moments before her family awoke were the only time she had for her passion now. "Mom, why are you always working?" 8-year-old Penny stood in the doorway, rubbing sleep from her eyes. Valerie quickly saved her work and closed the laptop. "Just finishing something, sweetheart. Let's get you ready for school." The morning routine unfolded with practiced efficiency. Breakfast prepared, lunch packed, Penny dressed, and her hair braided. When Reed finally emerged from their bedroom at 7:30, everything was waiting for him. Pressed shirt, coffee, protein shake, and briefcase by the door. "The Westbrook presentation is in your email," Valerie said, handing him his travel mug. "I restructured the market analysis section like you asked." Reed nodded absently, scrolling through his phone. "The graphics on slide 12 need work. I'll have Jenna fix them at the office." Valerie bit her tongue. She had spent 3 hours on those graphics last night, but Reed preferred his new assistant's aesthetic lately. "The numbers are solid. That's what matters. Perception matters too, Val." He glanced up, frowning at her worn University of Washington sweatshirt and messy bun. "Speaking of which, the agency's anniversary party is next Friday. Wear that black dress you bought last year, if it still fits." After dropping Penny at school, Valerie returned to their modest suburban home. Though Reed's agency, Bennett Marketing Solutions, had quadrupled its revenue in the past 3 years, they hadn't upgraded their lifestyle significantly. Reed preferred investing in the business. Valerie didn't mind. She had never cared much for luxury. She opened her laptop again, returning to the personal project she'd been tinkering with for months, a wellness app she'd conceptualized after witnessing how many of Penny's classmates' mothers struggled with burnout and depression. The idea had come to her during a PTA meeting where a fellow mother broke down crying, overwhelmed by trying to balance everything. Valerie remembered her own mother's similar struggles, how she had never prioritized her own well-being. The app would provide personalized mindfulness exercises, community support, and resource coordination, all things Valerie wished her mother had access to. Her phone buzzed with a text from Reed. "Landed Westbrook account. Taking team out for drinks. Don't wait up." Valerie sent congratulations, then returned to coding. Her computer science degree from UW and 5 years as a software developer at a major tech firm before Penny's birth had given her solid skills, though they were growing increasingly outdated. When she and Reed had decided someone should stay home with Penny, it made financial sense for it to be Valerie. Reed's career was taking off while the tech industry was in a downturn. What began as a temporary arrangement became permanent as Reed's business grew, and Valerie's skills gap widened. She still helped Reed with his business, building his website, managing client databases, creating presentations, all unpaid and uncredited work. Reed called her his secret weapon, though lately that acknowledgement came less frequently. "Mom, Dad said he closed the big deal." Penny burst through the door after school, her excitement palpable. "He did. That's wonderful." Valerie smiled, closing her laptop again. "Does that mean we can get a bigger house now?" "Jessica's family just moved to a house with a pool." Valerie smoothed Penny's hair. "We'll see, sweetie. Your dad likes to be smart with money." That evening, Valerie sat alone at the dinner table, her plate long empty, the clock showing 9:30 p.m. Reed wasn't answering texts. She washed the dishes, checked on Penny, then returned to her laptop, losing herself in lines of code until exhaustion overtook her. When Reed finally stumbled in past midnight, Valerie had fallen asleep on the couch, her laptop still open beside her. He glanced at the screen, frowning at the unfamiliar code, then closed it without a second thought. The Invisible Partner. 6 months later, Bennett Marketing Solutions had moved to sleek new offices in downtown Seattle, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Elliott Bay. Reed had hired 15 new employees, and their client roster now included several Fortune 500 companies. The silent architect of much of this success, however, remained at home, increasingly disconnected from the empire she had helped build. "I think you should wear something else," Reed said, leaning against the bedroom doorframe as Valerie smoothed down the navy blue cocktail dress she'd purchased for tonight's Industry Awards dinner. It was the first event Reed had invited her to in months. "What's wrong with this?" Valerie turned, examining her reflection. The dress was modest but flattering, accentuating her curves while maintaining professionalism. Reed sighed. It's just uninspiring. Everyone will be dressed to impress. The wives of the Thornton media execs always look like they stepped off a runway. I'm not just a wife, Reed. I built your entire client management system. Valerie's voice remained even, though her cheeks flushed with hurt. And I appreciate that, but tonight isn't about technical back-ends. It's about perception, networking, making connections. He checked his watch. Look, we're running late. Just wear whatever you want. The awards dinner was held at the Olympic Hotel, under crystal chandeliers that cast a warm glow over tables draped in white linen. Reed immediately gravitated toward a group of executives, leaving Valerie to find their assigned seats alone. She sat quietly, watching Reed work the room with practiced charm, introducing himself to industry heavyweights without once mentioning her name or beckoning her over. You look like you could use this, a woman said, sliding into the empty chair beside Valerie and offering her a glass of champagne. I'm Nicole Patel, CTO at Lumen Technologies. Valerie Bennett. She accepted the champagne gratefully. My husband's company is nominated tonight. Bennett Marketing? I've heard good things. Their digital campaigns are innovative. Nicole's gaze was shrewd. What do you do, Valerie? Valerie hesitated. What did she do? Once she'd been a rising software developer. Now she was a school volunteer, an unpaid assistant, a mother. I used to be in tech. Software development. Used to be? Those skills don't expire, you know. Valerie smiled ruefully. Mine might have. I've been out of the industry for 8 years. The fundamentals never change, Nicole said, her tone matter-of-fact. And the tech world is desperate for people who understand both human needs and coding solutions. Especially women. Before Valerie could respond, Reed returned to the table, his expression tightening when he saw her deep in conversation. They're announcing our category soon, he said, barely acknowledging Nicole. The evening progressed predictably. Bennett Marketing didn't win their category but secured a runner-up mention. At the after-party, Reed drowned his disappointment in scotch and conversation with a group that included Jenna, his assistant, whose silver sequined dress and perfectly styled hair drew appreciative glances. Valerie stood at the periphery, nursing a single glass of wine until Reed finally emerged, flushed with alcohol and frustration. We should have won, he muttered as they waited for the valet. Our campaign was stronger than Apex's. You'll get it next year, Valerie assured him. The Westbrook campaign has amazing metrics, Reed snorted. What would you know about it? You haven't been to the office in months. Because you stopped asking me to come in, Valerie replied quietly. But I still review all the analytics you send home. Reed didn't respond until they were in the car. Maybe you should focus more on our home life instead of trying to backseat drive my business. Penny mentioned you were late picking her up twice last week. I was working on your little app project. I know. Reed's tone was dismissive.
Val, hobby coding isn't going to pay our mortgage.
My business is what keeps us afloat. And I need a partner who understands that. I've been your partner from the beginning, Valerie said, staring out the window at the passing city lights. I just wonder if you remember that anymore. The following weeks brought a series of company events, client dinners, a team retreat, a holiday party, to which Valerie wasn't invited. When she questioned Reed about the holiday party, his response cut deep. It's just that these are sophisticated people, Val. They expect a certain level of presentation. He gestured vaguely at her casual attire. You've never cared about fashion or trends. You'd be uncomfortable. So you're saying I'm embarrassing to you now? The hurt in her voice was unmistakable. Reed softened, placing his hands on her shoulders. Not embarrassing. Just not suited for this environment. You're brilliant with code and logistics, but the social aspects of business require different skills. He kissed her forehead. It's better this way. You can focus on Penny and your app thing. That night, after Reed left for the party, Valerie sat in their home office staring at old photos from their early days together. There she was, presenting at a tech conference where they'd first met. Reed had approached her afterward, impressed by her knowledge and poise. When had she become unsuitable in his eyes? When had her intelligence, once so attractive to him, become secondary to her appearance? She opened her laptop and pulled up her wellness app project. What had started as a simple concept had evolved into something substantial. a comprehensive platform addressing women's mental and physical health through technology. She had been working on it diligently, learning new programming languages, studying current UX design principles. For the first time, Valerie wondered if her future might lie not behind Reed, but on her own path, one she had abandoned too easily and for too long. Reclaiming purpose. The Seattle winter faded into spring, bringing with it a renewal that extended beyond the cherry blossoms dotting the city. In the Bennett household, a subtle shift was occurring, one Reed seemed oblivious to, but Penny noticed immediately. "Mom, you look different," the 9-year-old observed one morning as Valerie sat at the breakfast table, laptop open beside her coffee mug, hair pulled back in a neat ponytail rather than her usual messy bun. Valerie smiled. "Different how, sweetie?" "I don't know. More like my art teacher, Ms. Winters. She always looks ready." Ready. The word resonated with Valerie. After months of quiet work and research, she was indeed ready for something new. The wellness app, which she had named Revive, had progressed from a personal project to a viable product. Following her conversation with Nicole Patel at the awards dinner, Valerie had reached out to several former colleagues, reconnecting with the tech world she had stepped away from. The responses had been encouraging. Yes, the industry had evolved, but her fundamental skills remained valuable. More importantly, her unique perspective as both a technologist and a woman who had experienced the challenges of balancing family responsibilities gave her insight that many developers lacked. "I have a meeting today," Valerie told Penny, closing her laptop and slipping it into a new messenger bag she'd purchased, her first professional accessory in years. "With Dad's company?" "No, with some other tech people, about my own project." Penny's eyes widened. "Like your own business? Like what Dad has?" "Something like that," Valerie said, smoothing her daughter's hair. "It's just a first step." After dropping Penny at school, Valerie drove downtown to a co-working space where Nicole had arranged for her to meet with a small group of women in tech, a mix of developers, designers, and entrepreneurs. The nervousness she felt walking in dissipated quickly as she was welcomed warmly. "Valerie, so glad you made it," Nicole greeted her with a quick hug. "Everyone, this is Valerie Bennett, the developer I was telling you about. Valerie, meet the Seattle Women in Tech Alliance." For the next 2 hours, Valerie presented her app concept, walking through wireframes and explaining her vision. The questions were probing but supportive, the feedback constructive. By the end, 3 of the women had offered to help test the beta version, and a UX designer named Tara had volunteered to review the interface. "This addresses a real need," said Janet Collins, a venture capitalist who specialized in women-led startups. "The wellness space is crowded, but your focus on integrating practical support systems with mental health tools is unique. I'd like to hear more when you're further along." Valerie left the meeting feeling lighter than she had in years, possibilities unfurling before her. She had taken the first step toward reclaiming her professional identity. Not as Reed Bennett's wife, but as Valerie Bennett, developer and entrepreneur. Her phone buzzed with a text from Reed. "Working late again. Important client dinner. Don't wait up." Once, such a message would have prompted Valerie to prepare a plate for him to reheat later. Today, she simply replied "okay" and continued driving. Not home, but to a small cafe where she'd arranged to meet Tara to discuss design improvements. Over the next several weeks, Valerie established a new routine. Mornings were dedicated to family, getting Penny ready for school, preparing meals, maintaining the household. Afternoons, while Penny was still in classes, became her work time. She joined the co-working space, transforming from isolated hobbyist to connected professional. Reed barely seemed to notice her absence from home, consumed as he was with his expanding business. Their conversations grew increasingly perfunctory. Logistics about Penny's schedule, brief updates on household matters. When Reed did ask about her activities, his interest was superficial at best. "Another meeting with your app friends?" he said one evening, his tone hovering between amusement and condescension. "That's becoming quite the social club." "It's not a social club, Reed, it's product development. We're launching a beta test next month." Reed raised an eyebrow. "A beta test? That sounds ambitious. Why is that surprising? I was a senior developer before Penny was born. That was almost a decade ago, Val. Technology moves fast." "So do I, when I'm motivated." She held his gaze until he looked away, returning to his phone. The beta launch of Revive exceeded Valerie's expectations. 200 women, mostly recruited through the networks of her new allies, signed up to test the platform. The feedback was overwhelmingly positive, with users particularly praising the intuitive interface and the community-building features. Janet Collins, true to her word, requested a follow-up meeting to discuss potential investment. This time she brought along Darius Mercer, founder of Mercer Innovations and one of the most respected figures in the Seattle tech scene. At 52, Darius had built his reputation not only through successful ventures, but through mentorship and advocacy for underrepresented groups in technology. His presence at the meeting both intimidated and excited Valerie. "Mrs. Bennett," Darius said, extending his hand. His voice was deep, his grip firm. "Janet tells me you've created something special." "Valerie, please." She smiled, projecting a confidence she didn't entirely feel. "And I hope so. Shall I show you?" For the next hour, Valerie demonstrated Revive, explaining her vision and the technology behind it. Darius asked pointed questions about scalability, security, and market differentiation, all of which Valerie answered with growing assurance. "What impressed me most about your presentation," Darius said afterward, "wasn't the technology, though that's solid. It's that you understand the human problem you're solving. Too many developers build solutions looking for problems." "Women's wellness isn't just a market opportunity to me," Valerie replied. "It's personal." Darius nodded thoughtfully. "The best innovations usually are." He exchanged a glance with Janet. "I believe Revive has significant potential, but it needs resources to grow. Financial backing, certainly, but also strategic guidance and industry connections." "That's what we're here to discuss," Janet added. "Darius and I would like to propose a partnership. Initial funding, mentorship, and access to our networks in exchange for equity in Revive." Valerie's heartbeat quickened. This was more than she had dared to hope for. "I'd need to see the specifics, of course." "Of course," Darius smiled. "But before we get to terms, I need to know, are you ready to fully commit to this venture? Because building a successful company requires more than part-time dedication." The question hung in the air between them, carrying implications that extended far beyond business. Was she ready to step completely out of Reed's shadow and into her own light, to reclaim not just her professional identity but her sense of self-worth? "Yes," Valerie said, her voice steady. "I'm ready." Digital Renaissance. 3 months after securing investment from Darius and Janet, Valerie's life had transformed dramatically. Revive had moved from her laptop to dedicated office space in Darius's building, where a small but talented team now worked to expand the platform. Valerie had cut her hair into a sleek bob, traded her worn sweatshirts for professional attire, and begun to speak with an authority that surprised even herself. At home, the changes were less visible but equally profound. Reed, increasingly absorbed in his own world of client meetings and business trips, seemed not to notice the gradual shift in their dynamic. Penny, however, watched her mother's evolution with fascination. "Mom, is Mr. Mercer your boss?" she asked one evening as Valerie prepared dinner after a long strategy session. Valerie smiled. "No, sweetheart. He's my mentor and business partner. We make decisions together. Dad says he's just investing in you because tech companies need more women now." Valerie's hands stilled. "Did he really say that?" Penny nodded. "When you were on that video call yesterday, he told someone on the phone." That night when Reed returned home, Valerie confronted him. "Do you really believe Darius is only backing Revive because I'm a woman?" Reed looked surprised, then annoyed. "You've been eavesdropping?" "Penny heard you, and you didn't answer my question." Reed sighed. "Look, I'm happy you found something to occupy your time, but let's be realistic. You were out of tech for years, and suddenly one of Seattle's biggest investors takes interest in your app. There are other factors at play. Like what? My gender? Not my skills, my vision, or the viable product I've created? The market is competitive. Companies are under pressure to diversify. Stop." Valerie's voice was quiet but firm. "My company received funding because it solves a real problem with a solid technical solution. Darius saw value where you never bothered to look." The argument that followed was their worst in years, ending with Reed storming out and Valerie sitting alone in their kitchen, a decision crystallizing in her mind. The next day, she toured 3 apartments, signed a lease on the second, and told Penny they would be moving. When Reed returned home that evening, Valerie explained her decision calmly without anger or blame. They needed time apart. She would file for divorce. Penny would split time between them. Reed's shock quickly turned to indignation. "You're throwing away our marriage for an app? For Darius Mercer's attention?" "No," Valerie replied. "I'm choosing myself. Something I should have done long ago." As spring turned to summer, Valerie and Penny settled into their new apartment. Revive continued to grow, gaining users and media attention. Valerie's relationship with Darius evolved from strictly professional to a deep friendship built on mutual respect and shared passion for innovation. By August, their friendship had blossomed into something more. Tentative at first, both conscious of professional boundaries and personal histories, but increasingly undeniable. They kept their relationship private, focusing publicly on Revive's success as it prepared for official launch. The grand revelation, the annual Seattle Tech Innovation Awards held at the Grand Hyatt in late September, was the industry event of the year. Reed had attended religiously since founding his company, though his nominations had never resulted in wins. This year, Bennett Marketing was again nominated, but a new name also appeared on the prestigious list, Revive, for Breakthrough App of the Year. Valerie arrived at the gala in a stunning emerald gown, her transformation complete. Beside her walked Darius, distinguished in a tailored suit, his hand occasionally brushing hers, a subtle gesture of support. Inside, the ballroom buzzed with Seattle's tech elite. Valerie spotted Reed across the room, standing with Jenna and his team. Their eyes met briefly before Reed looked away, his expression unreadable. "Nervous?" Darius asked quietly. "No," Valerie replied, surprising herself with the truth of it. "Whatever happens tonight, we've already won by creating something that helps people." As they made their way to their table, Valerie was stopped repeatedly by industry figures eager to discuss Revive. A tech blogger requested an interview. A group of women developers asked to take photos with her. The attention was surreal. This room where she had once felt invisible now seemed to revolve around her. When the Breakthrough App category was announced, Valerie held her breath. "And the winner is Revive by Valerie Bennett." The applause was thunderous as Valerie made her way to the stage, acutely aware of Reed watching from his table. Her acceptance speech was brief but powerful, focusing on the importance of creating technology that addressed real human needs, and of believing in oneself even when others didn't. As she returned to her seat, Darius squeezed her hand proudly. Photographers captured the moment, their flashes illuminating what was now obvious to everyone in the room. These two were more than business partners. Later, as they celebrated with champagne, Reed approached their table. The awkwardness was palpable. "Congratulations," he said stiffly. "The app? It's impressive." "Thank you," Valerie replied. "Penny must be proud." His eyes flicked to Darius, then back to Valerie. "She is. She helped test the kid-friendly features." An uncomfortable silence followed before Reed nodded and walked away. Valerie watched him go, feeling not triumph or vindication, but a quiet certainty that she was exactly where she belonged. Outside, as they waited for their car, a reporter approached for a photo. "The tech world's new power couple," she said, positioning them beneath the gala's elegant lighting. Darius looked to Valerie for permission before putting his arm around her waist. She smiled up at him, then at the camera, not as someone's wife or someone's partner, but as herself, Valerie Bennett, founder, innovator, woman who had stepped out of the shadows and into her own spotlight. The next day, their photo appeared on the front page of the Seattle Times business section, alongside a feature on women changing the face of technology. Reed saw it over his morning coffee, the newspaper spread beside the divorce papers he had finally signed. Meanwhile, across the city, Valerie and Penny made pancakes in their sun-filled apartment, planning their day together before Valerie would head to the office, to her company, her future, her self-determined life.